instruction sheet. So our winter cardinal, the focus for tonight is symmetry and form. So as we go, this is the teacher and me coming out, taught school for years. So tonight's goal for the night is to have our picture have symmetry and to create form or 3D shapes out of something that's just two-dimensional. And so we are only using 5 colors tonight. We have red, dark yellow, burnt umber, which is brown, black, and white. And so we are going to start, we're using a small canvas tonight, just the 8 by 10 canvas. If you're using a bigger canvas, you'll just have to do things bigger, I guess. But I want you to first start, those of you that have a kit, just take, you can just use a butter knife or plastic spoon or something and get your paint out so you have black, white, and brown. So on your palette, we're just going to work with black, white, and brown to start with. Okay, so we want to create a gray and a kind of a tan color that we're going to work on our background first. So I pull out some white, add a little brown to it. The color of brown that you're wanting to mix should look like cocoa or like a milk chocolate brown. So not super, super light, but kind of a just a milk, like a cocoa, which is good for tonight, right? For December. So we want a cocoa color.
That's some really creamy cocoa.
Uh-huh.
That's the way I like it.
And I want everybody to pause a minute and take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out, because our background is going to be made with a lot of free strokes. We want to create a misty background, you know, like on your phone when you choose to take a picture in portrait mode and you can blur the background a bit. If you look at the finished painting, you'll see. And so I've got my milk chocolate cocoa here, and I'm just going to put it on my canvas. I kind of put it on using X's. And I'm just going to put it here and there on my canvas. I'm not covering my whole canvas with it because I'm going to bring in some gray. So don't be precise with this, just free and easy. I should have told you we're using our large brush. Those of you that have a kit, you're using your largest brush. If you're at home, you have like a 1-inch, or you might even have a bigger brush. But you're just freely putting on some of the milk chocolate. Well, I kind of got it in 3 spots here. So now I'm not going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to go back to my palette and I'm going to pull out some more white and add a touch. The black is really strong, so only put a touch of black in it until I end up with a gray. You can see the difference. I have my light gray there. I have my milk chocolate. These are the 2 colors I'm blending in the background. So now I have gray on my brush. So I'm going to go into these white areas using the same kind of strokes and lay some of that gray in the background. You kind of, I didn't mix it, and I mix enough. Make sure you mix quite a bit of it, because you kind of have to use a lot here. Acrylic paint dries pretty fast, and we're not putting it on super thick here, so you do have to work quickly. So I have my gray and my brown. Now with my brush, I haven't wiped it off or washed it or anything. I'm going to go back, just alternating between the colors, and I'm just going to mix them. And my Goal here is just to cover my white canvas. So my brush is getting kind of dry and that I don't have a lot of paint on it. What I'm doing is I'm moving the paint around on my canvas. The paint that's already on my canvas, I'm moving it around. There's no up or down
Can
here.
can we slow down a little bit after this part?
Can what? What was your question?
Oh, we just
Get caught up.
Well, you have to work a little bit, force yourself to work a little bit fast because you don't want the paint to dry too much. You want to still be able to blend it. And your strokes can be going hither and yon. We'll get precise when we get on with the lamppost and the bird. So always looks better if you squint your eyes. So you can look at your canvas, squint your eyes, till all you can see is value, the colors. And you can tell when you squint your eyes if you have a little too sharp of a line somewhere that you need to put some paint on and blend it to make it softer. And this is kind of the underpainting because we are going to be putting the lamppost on there. And because of the season that it is, we are going to add snow, and you can cover anything up with snow. So I would say mine is finished. You can just see that I've got the gray and the brown. I'm trying to move it here so it's not too shiny so you can see. So we're going to this needs to dry. So make sure you don't have any globs of paint on it. If you do, go back with your brush and smooth it out because we want this has to be totally dry before we draw on our lamppost.
Lori, should we do the edges of the canvas with the same kind of brown gray mixture?
Yeah, I'm using a canvas board, but if you're using stretched canvas, if you still have enough paint, I would go through the edge and paint it. Here's one I've done. This is my second attempt. I'm gonna fix it tonight because you see he looks like a toucan. He's got too big of a beak. But yes, see, I just added a little of the color on the stretched canvas edge. So if you're using a stretched canvas, I would try to use up some of your paint and put a little around it. Plus, look at this finished one. You see how we're going to put at the very end, we're going to come in with snow around the edge here, kind of give the idea, you know, like as if you were looking through a frosted window pane. So you see that too is going to cover up some of your background pieces. So I'm done with my larger brush now. So I'm going to put it in the water and wash it off a little bit and then dry it off on a paper towel. If you have a hair blow dryer, you can dry your painting in less than a minute. If you have a hair blow dryer, and just plug it in and use that to get your
Looked like
paint.
you got a little water drip there on your canvas, Lori, when
Yep,
you were.
I
I was
saw
like,
that.
oh.
And I just washed my brush off. that for the day to dry. I'll move my water. So how's everybody doing? A lot of you just have your names on here, so I can't see your faces, but we used to say, well, just give us a thumbs up if you're ready to move on. That is the big challenge of teaching things virtually, is I can't see in person like where you're at.
You can just drop it in the chat if you need more time.
I'm still painting my edges, but I don't want to hold up the class if everyone else is ready to move on.
I'm not holding up the class.
Somebody else is saying just a sec too, so.
I'm gonna hit this with a blow dryer.
Anybody else that has joined us since we talked about it earlier, joining us somewhere else?
We still need a sec.
Okay, thank you. We'll hold up just for a minute. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. We didn't make that clear in the listing that it was acrylics. We have somebody trying to do it with watercolors, Lori, which will be interesting. I bet it's going to be really beautiful in watercolors. It'll work. Just might.
Oh, somebody is doing it in watercolor?
Yeah.
Love it. So we're going to get ready now to draw our bird on here and our lamppost. So you want to make sure that it's dry.
Acrylics dry pretty fast, so if you blended, and thinned it out pretty good, then it shouldn't take it too long to dry pretty well. But and like Lori did, you can hit it with a hair dryer.
Yeah. So for those
Hurry
of
it up.
you that have the kit or printed off the template, you have a little black line master like this. If you have the kit, you got a piece of carbon paper that you'll just put dark side down on your canvas. Lay this on top of it. Hold it gently with one hand, and you're going to use, it works best, a dull pencil. And you're going to trace these lines off onto your canvas. Okay. I don't know how many are going to be freehanding it.
I don't know how many people. We have 35 people in the class right now. And I know there were several people who got a kit who were asking if I was going to record it. Because they couldn't do it tonight but wanted to do it later. So I don't know how many people are using the kit and how many people are freehanding. We'll have a little bit.
I'm going to trace mine onto here, but I will do a freehand drawing for those that want a little bit of guidance with the drawing of it.
I bet at least half of us are freehanding it.
So let me get this drawn onto here. You can just let your background dry a little bit. So yeah, if you are tracing it, then you have your carbon paper down with the dull side up, and you're just holding your templates still. I don't have carbon paper, so I just rubbed the side of a pencil on the back of my drawing here so that the graphite would transfer onto my canvas. So I don't know if you can even see it. I can see it. So I just had a light little drawing of it. So here's how we draw it freehand. Did this with a whole picture so you can see it. So I printed off a picture. It is in fourths. So we're going to be, so if I fold up the picture into fourths, both horizontally and vertically, it gives me a grid line. So that when I talk to you, of course, you can't fold your canvas, but you can imagine. So we start with the lamppost, and you're going to look at your canvas, and you're going to imagine your canvas is in fourths. So like imagine that I'm going to draw a pencil line just so you can see it, but of course you're just imagining this. I'm imagining this is my canvas, and I've got it half that way. And if I cut each of these halves in half, I end up dividing it into fourths. Okay. So on this fourth, about, half an inch down, I'm going to start by drawing a diamond. And remember, we're working with symmetry, which means it's the same on both sides. This is a real exercise in freehand drawing, things symmetrical. We start with the diamond, and then from here, so this is like 1/4 of the way in on my canvas. I'm going to draw a vertical line all the way down to the bottom of my canvas. Let me draw that darker so it shows up more for you. Okay. Now, if I take and imagine that I have divided my canvas horizontally in half, then if I divide it up here and here, then I've divided it horizontally into fourths, right? So I'm going to come down about halfway, which halfway on my top half. So 1/4 of the way down here, and about a half an inch in from the edge, and I'm going to put a dot. And you can use your pen. You can use one of your paintbrushes for a marker. You don't need a ruler. So I'm going to take and I'm going to see where that dot is to my center line here, which is the front. That center line is this front wrought iron piece of my lamppost. Comes from my diamond, goes straight down. This dot I just put in is this dot at the edge of the top of the cap of the lamppost. So I'm going to see how far out that is and measure that. And then I'm going to go over here to the left side of that center wrought iron and put another dot. So ideally, these are the same distance. I'll move that one over a bit. Okay. So I have two dots and they're down about 1/4 of the way. And I'm going to join them up here just below my diamond with just a slight curve. And what I do on the left side of the lamppost, I'm going to try to mimic over here on the right side. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to put a dot right here on my wrought iron piece, like that in the middle. And now I'm going to join this outer dot with like a smile curve. And what I do on the left, I'm going to try to mimic on the right. And I know this is like a little bit more precision drawing. Not to worry, because you can cover it up with snow at the end if it's not quite right, quite symmetrical. Okay. Now my lamp, I want to look down here. I'm going to go below halfway. So even if you want to take a paintbrush and lay it across your canvas about halfway to give you, if you need more of a visual. So here's halfway down my canvas. And I'm going to go just slightly below that and do a little dot. And again, I'm going to make a little dot. This is the glass on my lamppost. So I'm coming out here. To me, it's about 1 inch. but I'm going to use a paintbrush to measure how far I made that dot out. So that'll give me the base of my light. So I just draw a horizontal line into the center, into the center. Okay, this is kind of like dot to dot, because now I have this dot that's on the cap of my lamppost, and I'm just going to connect it to the base of my lamppost glass with just a little bit of a diagonal line. And then in here where your light is, remember this was halfway on my canvas. I'm going to go a little bit above halfway and draw a short line across my middle wrought iron piece. And then I'm going to join that down here to the bottom. This is where the light is coming out. Okay, remember we're working in fourths. This is halfway on my canvas. So if I divide that in half horizontally, I've got a bottom fourth, and that's where.
Hey, Lori, we either need for your camera to be a little bit further away or the canvas to be up, because we can only see part of it.
Be up a little bit.
Thanks.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So I'm going to come down come up from the bottom about a fourth of the way up. Put a little dot. Our bird over in this right quadrant here is where our bird is going to be. So I'm going to put, you can measure from the bottom how high that is. Come out here into that left quadrant and put a little dot. And then join those horizontally. That's going to be my horizontal bar. I got to look at this from a distance. I kind of went uphill, but. And your wrought iron pieces, you can decorate them however you want. You don't need to follow what I have pictured or anything. Although I will tell you that a little ball is going to look really cool when you add dimension to it. So if you want to make a little ball, draw half of it on the left side, half of it on the right side. In the painting I'm doing, can you see this is like a number 3 with a tail on it? So on my left side, I did like a number 3 and made the tail touch the circle. And then you have to mirror it. Go backwards 3. Phew, don't forget to breathe. That's like the basic of our lamppost.
That's the hard part when you're doing something that you're worried about or that you haven't done before. Take a minute.
The pencil really
take a
tight
deep breath,
and hold your breath.
Loosen your shoulders up a little bit.
So I'm going to show you on the drawing here. This is my working model. So the bird is made up of an egg shape and a circle. That's the basic shape of the bird. So we have the bigger rounded part of the egg is going to be its breast, and the tip of the egg, or the narrower part of the egg, so it's not quite an oval, it's more like an egg, has a narrower end, is going to be the tail. So, and the body of the bird goes almost up to halfway. So I'm going to can you see that? I draw kind of the fatter part of the egg here. And then this is the back of the bird. So can you see that that's kind of an egg shape? Good. Okay, now we're going to add the head, and the little bird in the painting, as you can see, is got its head turned and it's kind of looking over its left wing here. So we're going to put a circle, but it's going to overlap our egg right here. So what I like to do, the size of my circle is more like a 50-cent piece, is hold your pencil a little bit more vertical. And don't touch your paper, don't touch your canvas yet. Just imagine that you're drawing a 50-cent piece. And when you work on that orb until you get it about the size that you want it, then make your chalk or your pencil touch down. So you have a little orb here that's more of a circle shape, and it's going to overlap the I would say this is the bottom of the egg. It's the top of the bird, but see how the egg shape is? We're almost done. We're almost ready to paint. Now, don't want it to be like this one I did. I got the beak too big. He looks like a toucan. So we got to do a little bit smaller for his beak. So the beak is going to stick out here like a little triangle. So better if you start out small and then you can paint it larger if it needs to be, than to start out too big. And that's the end of our drawing. That's all the lines we need for our picture.
How's everybody doing with your drawing or your transfer, whichever you're doing?
By now, for sure, your painting should be all dry. If you're watching the directions, we're now on number 3. So step 3.
I don't know if the silence means everybody is furiously still sketching, or if everybody is just like, yeah, no, we're ready to move on.
The transfer was really, really cool. I had no idea that carbon copy could do that. It's really cool.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Good. And you only need just a little, oh, perfect. You only need just a little few basic lines just to kind of give you an idea. We're not doing a complete drawing here before we paint. Oops. So on those of you that are ready to move on, you should have pure black, a place where you have pure black, not mixed with gray. So if you need to put some more black paint on there, get some more black paint, because we're not working with gray right now. We're going to work with straight black. So we're putting on like our primer coat. So on your palette, put out your red. Mine is called Brilliant Red. It is very brilliant.
Yeah, ours is a little bit deeper red. It's more of a not crimson. I'm trying to think what the paint is. I can't even remember.
And I think, let's see, if you're working with a kit, you had a angled brush, right, Wendy?
Yes, we have an angle brush. I put an angle brush and a detail brush and the blender brush in there.
Okay, so these are the brushes if you were using a kit that you have. So we'll call them small, medium, large. Do it this way: large, medium, small. So they're like in order. Okay. If you're working on your own, you can actually use a round brush. I'm using a number 6 or 8. And then I have a small one round. Either way, you have a small, medium, and large brush. We are going to use our medium brush. So whatever you have for a medium brush, whether it's a angled brush or a larger round brush. And this is a super simple part. We are going to start with our red. And you are just going to base coat. Oh, let me tell you this. Base coat in your, you're going to base coat in your bird. So let me show you. I'll do it with a pencil here first. So this was your drawing that you had on there. If you didn't trace it from the template, you have this drawing. So with this, you're going to connect the round part of the head to the body, both at the neck in here, both at the back of the neck and the, well, it's kind of the side of the neck. And you're going to have a little top knot come down. And we're going to have a tail flare out down here. So now you're just going to take your painting and you're just going to lay that red right on. Just make it solid. So just use your brush, your medium brush. And you're just painting the shape. Shape is a two-dimensional, has an inside and an outside. So I'm not watering down my paint at all. I'm just simply putting my medium brush in my red and just giving myself a totally red bird here. Where you get to the beak, don't paint the beak red. Actually, we do paint the beak red. Sorry, let me look. You do fill in the beak with red. So it's going to just give you the total silhouette of your bird. I've got my picture turned upside down. You can turn it however you want to, however is easiest for you to paint the shape in. So I have that much of my bird painted in. Good. I am going to turn my picture upside down. And with my red, I'm going to paint his little crest on his head. And I'm lifting my brush to give it the little feathery edges there. And then I'll turn my picture back right side. And down here at his tail, I want it to fan out. So whether you're using your medium round brush or you're using your angled brush, I'm going to put my angled brush, I'm using the edge of my brush. And I am just giving it kind of a, almost like I'm thinking a triangle shape, except the bottom of the triangle isn't squared off. It's the feathers. Does that make sense to you? You just come down and you just lift your brush at the end. We are going to come back and layer our paint in here to give us form. Okay, so I have my bird painted in the solid red. I'm going to wash off my brush now. Make sure you get all the red out of your medium brush because we are going to use it now with black. And we're going to do similar what we did with the bird. We're going to add our base coat on our lamppost. So depending on how you feel, you can use your smaller liner brush just because we're using such a small canvas. Use your liner brush if you want, straight in the black, no water or anything added, and paint in your diamond up here. I just find that easier to paint with my liner brush, that part. If you have a scrap paper, you should try this. I'm gonna. Just so you can feel the pressure, because how much pressure you put on your paintbrush is how you're going to make your wrought iron. So if I'm using the angled brush, I'm going to turn it so that the shorter edge of the brush is going to be facing towards the bottom. That makes sense. Here's my angled brush. I'm going to turn it so this short edge is actually going to be facing the bottom, facing me with my belly. And I'm going to dip it in black. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to trace over my line. So I'm going to do this on my drawing first so you can see it. I find it easiest. This is a pencil hold for your brush. You're going to want to move that pencil up so it's more perpendicular to your canvas. So instead of it laying back like this, you're going to want to move that brush so it's more perpendicular to your canvas. I also use my little finger and lay it on my canvas as like a tripod to hold it. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to just press and drag my line down. And if I'm giving it equal pressure as I bring it down, that wrought iron piece is going to stay pretty much the same width. If you're using a round brush, so if I'm using the round brush like this, it's the same thing. Depending on how much I press with it, my pressure is going to decide how wide my wrought iron piece is. With my round brush, the bristles are a little longer and I can press a little harder and get a thicker wrought iron piece. And then at the end, I just lift it up. So if you have a piece of paper so you can just kind of see like how thick you want your piece to be, your wrought iron. Since a lot of you are using the angled brush, I'm going to use the angled brush on mine, which I think is going to make it a little bit narrower.
I think as a beginner, sometimes the angle brush is a little bit easier to control than a round brush is, as far as how thick that you want it.
And we're going to start off easy because we filled in our diamond up here. Now we're going to fill in our cap on our lamppost. So this is just, be careful you don't drag your hand in your bird. This is just going to be fill in the blank here. So I'm coming out. It's nice with the angle brush. You can give it a sharp point. And I'm just going to base coat this in black. Turning my canvas just because it's awkward for me to paint off to the right. I'd rather be coming towards myself. So whatever is easiest, plus I don't want my hand to mess up my red bird. So I'm going to turn my canvas upside down. So my hand is nowhere near my red bird. And I'm going to be coming towards myself with my brush. That's easier for me. If you're left-handed, you'll find a place that's easiest for you. Remember to breathe. And remember, we're going to be putting snow on this, so not to worry about. if it isn't quite as symmetrical as you wanted it to be. Kind of looks like a blackbird wings. So there I have my cap done, like a mustache. And now I'm going to come down, have to be careful with the red bird, and I'm going to make this wrought iron piece that comes down the center and goes right off the end of my board.
So you're doing that before you do your flame? When I did it, I did the flame first.
The flame, no, we do all the wrought iron, and then it's this time of night where my eyes start burning really bad. Okay, so I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to, if it helps you to give yourself an ending spot, you can do the base of your wrought iron lamp, the lamp itself. So you have a dot to come from. So when we come in a little bit from the edge. And make our one side. We're just going over our pencil lines. I think when we were drawing it, I had to do it, connect it from the outside edge. That's fine. And then you have this little shape where the flame is at. Remember, it started with a horizontal line and then it was kind of a curve. So horizontal down into a curve. And then we have the horizontal bar across the bottom. Again, because I'm more comfortable coming towards myself than going away. So I turn my canvas so I can start underneath my bird. So you want it to be underneath his body, but not quite touching his feather. Pressing down, drawing that line across. Again, I'm using the side of my hand here to brace myself on my canvas, just to help steady my hand a little bit more. Okay. And I would wash my angle brush, stick it in the water right now. And I would use my liner brush. Or if you're using a larger round brush, you could use your medium round brush, because you need a tip to draw this curly, whatever design if you gave a design here for your wrought iron work. So first I'm going to draw my ball. And then I can fill it in. Again, whatever I do on one side of this wrought iron, I want to try to make it look symmetrical and do the same to the other side.
But also, again, if it's not perfectly symmetrical, A, there's no room for perfectionism in art.
Yeah.
And
There are
B,
no mistakes.
you're gonna put the snow on,
You're
so it
gonna
doesn't
put
have
the
to be
snow on.
perfect.
And the snow is amazing.
And you know, Bob Ross always said, no mistakes, just,
Yep.
Happy little accidents.
So because I'm drawing these, I'm painting these curlicues, I want my paint to flow a little better. So I am going to take my brush, dip it in my water, tap it off on the side, and then mix it in my black so that my black is a little bit thinner, which is going to help me when I'm drawing these curves. And again, it will help you make sure to not set your hand on your work. It will help you to change from a pencil grip to having your brush more vertical.
And if you have medium, you can use that instead of water because it will.
And you can move your fingers
Better.
up your brush. Instead of being down here at the very end, move your fingers up your brush. Brush is more perpendicular to your canvas. And then with the water in your brush, it will make your paint flow a little better.
Or you can use thinner paint.
Mhm.
This is where, who said they were doing watercolors? This is where watercolors will be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Than the thicker acrylics, the full-bodied acrylics will be.
I'm just coming back here just to sharpen up those curves just a little bit. Just be very aware, spatially aware of where your hand is, that it's not messing up your bird, or like my horizontal bar right here has a little blob. The ink is thicker here on the outside edge, so it hasn't dried yet. So I just have to be aware of that so that I don't get my hand in it. It's so funny. I found this design and I thought it was so cool. I painted it up myself. And then I talked to Wendy about it. And here she says, oh, well, our theme for the library for Christmas is a Dickens Christmas. And they've got all these lampposts decorated all throughout the library. So I thought, wow, that's amazing. What a fit.
Everything around here is Dickensian, so I was like, it's perfect. I can't not do it now. We weren't going to do a paint night again until February. And then Lori sent me this, and I was like, well, it's too perfect to go with our Dickensian theme, not to do paint night in December. So
yeah, and I didn't even know that was the paint night. So we're letting this dry to let everybody catch up. So now we put a base coat on everything here. Now we're going to start adding some of our detail. So we are on step 4 of your instructions, but we are going to use a watered down black. So again, you're going to put your brush in your water, tap it on the side. I'm not touching it to a paper towel. Whatever is dry will suck. This is like a watercolor painting mantra. And so if I have water in my brush and then I touch it to a paper towel, the paper towel is dry, it's going to suck that moisture out of my brush. And I don't want that. I want my brush to have the water in it. So I dip it, I tap it, and then I go straight to my palette. And I'm going to pull out some black here and make a thinner black.
Lori, they're saying they need just a little bit more time on the fill-in.
Okay, that's fine.
So I wanted to interject too. Some people are very, very against using any amount of water in your brush when you're painting with acrylics. I think brush paint, you don't want to mix in a ton of water, but having your brush wet is fine. But if you prefer, you can always use medium to help thin your paint with if you have that, and that's what
Mhm.
you'd like to use to thin.
Too much water added to acrylic paint will actually break down the polymer in the acrylic paint.
Right.
But we are not mixing too much water, and because we also we are putting on, we're gonna define the beak, and do the next part we're doing is the beak and the mask around the bird's eye. And we want it, it's not really, it's called a wash. It's like a watercolor. So we're going to use a wash of black, which isn't, so it's not, we can't just say, well, let's just mix some white with it and make a gray. That we're not changing the value of the black. We're still using black, but we're using it as a wash, and that we want it to be lighter. And that's going to give us our definition on our beak. And it also is going to give us the bird's mask. The eye is going to be pure black. That'll be dark. The wash is going to be a lighter value of black, but not a gray, because we're adding it, we're having some water in our brush for it. If that kind of helps you to understand where we're going with this. We good to move on now? Okay, so dip your brush in the water, tap it off, pull some black off onto the edge of your palette here with a little of the water, using your liner brush. You're gonna put your brush in it and then roll it as you come off of your palette so it has a nice point to it. And I can still see my pencil drawing of my beak through my red here, but I'm going to go back with this and I'm going to define my beak. And the beak also has a little bit of a curve to divide it. So on the instructions, I gave you like a close-up view of the beak and the eye so you could see how it is. Let me hold this up closer. So you can see how I defined the beak with my wash of black and a little point. And now using that same wash, if you look at the final picture, here's my picture on the instructions. Can you see how his mask, it comes over his eye here, but from his eye down to his little beard under his beak and across, it's like a rectangle. So that's what the shape we're looking for. So you're going to use little brush strokes with your wash. And you're putting in this mask. And you're thinking it's like on my bird, it's like a ½ inch wide by maybe an inch tall. I find it easiest to do the brush strokes by having my brush be more perpendicular to my canvas. And then he's got this little, the mask kind of mixes in with like a little beard here underneath his beak. And his mask has a top part that comes all the way out here to the side of his head. You can see how it's black, but it's not gray. It's because it's a lighter though than the lamppost wrought iron. You can see the value is different. That's because we had a little water in our brush when we put it on there. And at this point, the wash will dry super fast.
Lori, I
So
don't
at
know
this
why.
point-
I'm sorry. I'm letting people catch up, but I also wanted to say, I don't know why I've never thought about that little black part under their beak as a beard before, but now I can't unsee it as a little beard. Because
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, maybe, I don't know
And
if that's what it's actually called or not, but that
I don't
is
know. And then it's like a little rectangle. If you look,
so
it's like,
perfect.
forms like a little rectangle. So now I have taken my brush and I have wiped it off on the paper towel. Because now I'm going to do his eye, and then I want his eye to be pure paint. No water in my brush. So I've taken my brush, I've wiped it off on the paper towel, let the paper towel suck up the moisture from my brush. And then I'm going to go back to the straight paint, not the area where you had the watered down paint. And you're going to get pretty good little glob on here. And we're going to put his eye on. His eye sits right about at the top of his beak, where his beak comes. So if you imagine your brush here, I'm not touching the canvas yet, but I'm at the top of his beak there, like the bridge, like his nose bridge. And then I'm going to come out about halfway on his head, and I'm going to do a little dark circle, a little orb here. You'll see it'll be like your wrought iron. It'll be very black compared to the mask that you've put on him. And if you want, they kind of are like a little lemon shape. They have there's a little point on one side and then a little inside. If I hold this up, do you see that? Where
Yeah.
it's not quite a circle, it's kind of like a lemon. It's got like a little point off on opposite sides.
How's everybody doing? Are you
I
feeling
hope
like
everybody's
you're
doing good.
caught up? Like you're where we are? Like Lori was saying earlier, it's really hard when we're not all together and I used to try and always paint along with so that I would know if I was getting behind, then I would know that at least some of you guys were probably getting behind too. But then sometimes I would miss chats and stuff. So now I have to paint separate if I'm going to do the painting so that I don't miss anybody, or I'm always in the chat and not always trying to paint. But yeah, if you need for us to slow down at all, you just have to let us know so that we can, because I'm sure if you need to, you're not the only one that's wishing
No, I'm sure
that we were slowing down. So
yeah, if we were in person, we'd walk around and I'd see,
See how
see
everybody's
where
doing.
everybody is at, and we can.
okay.
If you need to go back with a little more of your watered down and add a little more mask under his eye, a little around the eye there, you can. But we're gonna clean our brush after our black. Using the same liner brush or your small brush, we're now gonna work on our beak.
There
So
are a couple
because
people still saying they're catching up, Lori.
Okay. So those of you that are ready, you can add a little bit of your yellow to your palette. And you should still have some white that's not mixed in with the brown or the gray. Or if you need to add some. So you should have your little beak divided with your black wash and a solid black eye, a little orb with like a lemon, like a little point on each opposite sides here. And then with the black wash, a little mask that goes over his eye out to the back of his head. And imagine kind of a little rectangle around his beak. Those of you that have your faces showing, if you're ready to move on, if you could do a thumbs up so I know you're ready to move on. Oh, good. You got little emoji thumbs up. Where'd you get those from?
Zoom. Zoom just provides those.
Oh, well, there you go. Without seeing your face, I can see your thumbs up. Oh, thanks, Chris. Looking awesome, Marilyn. Very nice. So we're going to go put your yellow out because we're going to work with yellow here for a minute. So we're going to use our smallest brush. Remember, we have small, medium, and large brush. So we're using small brush. And I'm going to put the tip of my brush in my yellow and roll my brush on my palette. And I am going to make a C and a backward C on the eyeball. So make sure your black is dry. It should be dry. So I'm going to see if I get this up closer. I'm going to make a little C on the back of my eye and a backwards little C on the front of the orb of my eye. I had such a little bit of yellow.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does adding water to it afterwards make the wash change like a little bit lighter or not really?
Just putting water on the wash that you have on the canvas?
Right.
Like you want to make it lighter? You can do that a little bit.
Would that help at all? Like would that do
you feel like your mask is too dark?
Possibly.
We are going to go back and add more detail in it. So it's actually just a layer that we're working with right now. So I think if you wait till we add the final detail of it, then you can see.
Then you can just add some lighter details and that will help thin it out
Oh, okay.
a little bit.
Yeah. So
Good
I
question.
put a light little C on both sides of my eyeball. I'm going to wash off my brush and just pick up a dot of white that I can put on my eye. Just a tiny dot on my eye.
It's pretty incredible how just two little C's and a tiny dot give so much dimension to that eye, huh?
Mm-hmm. And then I can leave the white. So the white dot was the last thing I did with my small brush. So I don't need to wash it or anything because remember the beak is divided in half. So the top half of the beak is going to be a mix of yellow and white. The bottom half of the beak is going to be a mix of yellow and red. So since I have white on my brush right now, I'm going to pull off a little bit of yellow, add a little more white. till I get a light soft yellow. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give my top part of my beak this yellow white look. Beaks of cardinals are all different colors. They can be very dark, they can be very orange, they can be very, very light. So I've got yellow here on the top of my beak. And I'm actually going to come back with just white to give it a little highlight at the crest, at the top edge. And then I'm dabbing my white off and wiping on a paper towel. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to mix a little orange, which is a mix of yellow and red. So I have a little yellow, add a little, I have a little yellow. I mix a little red to it. In a nice little orange color. Orange is going to be the bottom of the beak. And I'm going to take some of this orange and I'm actually going to wipe it on my paper towel. So it's just a little bit on my brush. And I'm going to add a little bit of the orange on the top part close to his head. I want just a little bit more value change there. There, can you see the beak good? If you feel like you got the top part too light compared to the bottom part, then just take a little bit of that orange or a little bit, make it a little darker with your red. You can see the value better if you hold it at arm's reach, squint your eyes, so you just see the value. The little white highlight right along the top edge of the beak will make the beak appear smoother, like hard and smooth, compared to when we start putting his feathers on, the feathery strokes. Okay. Okay, guys, emoji thumbs up. Let me know where you're at. You ready to move on to the feet? We're going to use our medium brush. Where is that brown at? Oh, I got a lot of white mixed in with my brown. I'm going to put a little brown on my brush and a little white on my brush. I'm not mixing it. I'm just putting, like, dab one side of your medium brush, or if you're using your liner brush, one side in brown, one
Lori,
side
is
in
your
white.
medium round a number 6? Somebody's asking
Yeah.
what size your medium is.
6.
Is that a 6?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, it's a number 6. Round brush.
So now I have brown and white on my same brush, right? So I'm going to come in here holding my paintbrush a little more vertical.
Are
I'm
you using
going-
the small or the medium?
The small, I'm using my medium. You're just using the tip of it. So if you want to use the small liner brush, you can do that too. We're just going to paint his diagonal legs.
So yeah, in the kit, you can use the angle brush or the detail brush, either one, whichever one feels easiest to control for you.
So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw the diagonal legs. Yeah. So his right leg is his back leg. So it just starts at his body and it just angles down to the wrought iron. And you'll see when you paint with it, the brown and the white kind of mix. And then when I do his front leg, I'm going to come over about 1 inch and I'm coming into his body. Oops, sorry. Into his body, down to the wrought iron. And then you can put a little curve here at the bottom, the toe, but you know what? There's going to be snow on here, so probably not even going to see his toe. But when you paint it off, you should see that it's like a little brown leg, but it's got a little white highlight on it. Very simple. Okay, we're going to go to making our light.
And don't forget to breathe, because when you're doing those little
Part.
details that you're like, oh no, I could screw up this entire painting if I put the legs too far apart or whatever. It's not true. First of all, you're not, but it also gets really easy to hold your breath and like tense your shoulders. So, loosen it up, take a deep breath. You're doing better than you think you are. And personally, I always like my painting way better the day after than I do right when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You're still in the details right now. It's hard to see the whole thing. Everybody caught up to there? Anybody need another second before we move on?
Wendy, what is the large brush that's in the kit?
The large one that's in there is 1 inch.
Is it this one?
It's the
Like
colored
this?
ones, but yeah, it's 1 inch blender brush.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to use this for our light.
Chris, it's good to know I'm not the only one that needs reminders to breathe and
And release your shoulders. Drop your shoulders down.
Roll those
They're probably
shoulders,
like
take a deep
touching your
breath.
ears right now. So you got to drop your shoulders down.
Tammy
So we're
agrees that you always like your painting better the next day too. It's true. I don't know what it is about a little perspective of the little bit of time, but it helps a lot.
So we are going to make this light right here. So it's going to be on both sides, symmetrical, both sides of our wrought iron that's in the foreground here, that's closest to you. So we're going to take our bigger brush and you're going to put white on one corner. Can't really see that so well. And yellow on the other corner. There, can you see my brush has white and yellow on it? And I'm going to put my white is going to be closest to the wrought iron.
You could also use your angle brush for this. You can do exactly the same thing. And if you need it to be a little bit smaller to feel like you have more control, since our bigger brushes are pretty big that are in the kits.
Oh, okay. So small, use a smaller one.
Yeah,
so the
angle
white is
brush
going to be closest to the wrought iron. The yellow is farther away. It's going to kind of mix on my brush. I'm finding mine to be too big, so I'm going to go to my middle brush. Yeah, it's a little bit, just a little bit too big. So I want to come back here and I just want to blend this yellow and white. Again, you can tell how it's blending by holding it away from you and squinting at it. And while your paint is still a little bit wet, you're going to take a little corner of red and put it to the very edge. So the red is going to mix with the yellow, make an orange, then the yellow becomes, then the yellow comes to the white. And it's going to look a little bright right now, but we're going to put a white, a little bit of a white wash over it to make the glass look foggy. And it will cover, it will mute this.
Soften it.
Light, yeah, soften the light color. And where because it's, my wrought iron is totally black, so where I kind of went over my wrought iron, I could just come back and sharpen that with the black. There's no mixing, just wanna.
Lori, I'm sitting in my office, you know, all the lights in the library are on like motion censored. So if nobody's moving for a while, they turn
Oh, it
off.
gets dark.
And I've just been sitting, here at the computer, and now all of a sudden my light just went off. I clearly have not been moving enough.
That's funny. Hey, we had a question.
Yep.
So it was on the light in the lantern. It was white and then yellow and then what next?
Just take your brush on the very tip of your brush and add a tip of red, and then put that red around the very outside edge of the light. And then if you need to, you can wipe it off on the paper towel and bring a little more yellow in to mix with it to make like a little orange.
Or yeah, or even if you still have some orange mixed on your palette, you could use the orange for that too.
So the light just
Okay.
varies from white next to the wrought iron to yellow to orange to a little red on the darkest on the edge.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Good question. Let's see. Yeah, those colors really do look cool. It looks like the light is
yeah, so let your light dry. We're going to change now. Everything pretty much looks flat right now, especially on our wrought iron. So we are going to come back with a gray highlight. So what is dark moves away from you. What is light comes towards you. So we're going to start to create form by lightening up some of the wrought iron to make it look like it's protruding out of the picture, up out of the picture. So with your palette, you want to make a gray, similar to the gray that you made for the background. So pull out your white with a touch of the black in it until you get a light gray color. So there's my gray. This is all dried from my first one. I'm using my medium brush. And looking at your lamp, what do you want to look like it's coming out towards you? So I know on my, the bottom of my light here, I want this to look, you can wipe it off on the paper towel so it's not quite so much. I want a little bit of highlight. Yes, wipe it off on your paper towel so it's very light. I want a little bit of highlight in here on my cap of my lamppost. My brush is very dry. Can you see the difference? So I made my gray and then I wiped it off on the paper towel. Remember, the paper towel is going to soak up the moisture on my brush, and I want it to soak up the gray. So there's just a little gray on my brush. A lot of this is going to be covered with snow, so not to worry too much. But can you see that it's changing that flat shape into a form where it looks like it is three-dimensional now? So I get a little gray on my brush, wipe it on my paper towel bit, and now I'm coming down here to my, if you put a ball on it. So the part that I want that looks like it's closest to me is going to be this center part. So it looks like it's coming out of the picture towards me, like it's a dome, like my hand here. So the top part is going to be the lightest of it. And the rest I'm going to have snow on, so I don't really need to put any highlights on that. So we have the diamond, the cap on the lamppost, where the light originates from, and the circle here. And those are your highlighted wrought iron pieces.
And don't worry if you feel like it was too light, you can always paint over it with black and re-highlight it. That's the great thing about acrylics, is they're very forgiving. You can paint right over it with a solid color and then go back and highlight it if you want. And breathe again.
Yep. If any of you use chalk to draw with, now would be the time to wet your small brush, and you can clean off any chalk marks that are still showing. So if you did it with pencil, we should have covered up everything that was drawn with pencil. But if you freehanded it and happen to draw on it with chalk, now's the time you can just take water to clean it off.
Lori, they're asking if you can pull your painting down so that they can see the top, because we can't see the whole canvas at once. Yeah, they want to see the cap of it. Yeah, thanks.
Oh. So we're getting close to being done. We're doing on time. We're getting a little late. We are going to go back to finish our bird now. So using your medium brush, or if you have the angled brush, you're going to use the sharp point on the angle brush. So you're going to be using this sharp point if you're using the angle brush. We are going to work from dark to light on our bird. Okay. So our mix is going to be red, brown, which is going to give you a very dark brownish red. And I'm going to add a little point of black. Remember, we're working from dark to light. So this is going to be the dark on my bird. Now, from me mixing the paint, I have a lot on my brush, so I'm going to wipe it off on the paper towel. Come back to it with a kind of a dry brush and just do the point of it in my palette. Again, that was brown with red and just a tiny point of black. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to start here first with my tail. And I'm going to be making feather strokes. So I'm going to start off here at the tail and lift up as I come out to give some dimension here to the feathers on my tail. Let me show you a finished one. You see these strokes in here? This is what we're working on. We're working on these dark feathers underneath, the shadow of these feathers under his tail and behind his left leg. So you do want a little black in there because you want it to be dark reddish brown. And I'm setting my finger on my canvas so I can balance. And I'm adding some variation here. Lifting my brush as I come to the end of the tail feathers. And then I'm going to take short little brush strokes here around his leg. I'm going to let my brush strokes go off his body. See at the very bottom how the brush strokes are coming off. And I'm going to, using this color, if you feel like my paint is getting kind of dry here. So I'm going to put my brush in the water, tap it off, go back to my colors just so I can make it a little more movable. And I'm going to work my way up his breast here, adding these little brush strokes. Trying to get that so you guys can see. Remember, we're working from dark to light, so we'll be adding in some light here in a bit. But right now we're adding his dark. Remember, dark moves away from you, so we want to change him from a flat bird, a flat shape, into the form of a bird.
In question on the colors again, it was red, brown, and yellow.
A little bit of black.
Okay, red, brown, a little bit of black. Thank you.
And roll your brush on your palette so you have a nice sharp little point. And I'm working my way right up his face here, his cheek. I come right up to his mask. Once I'm going to turn this just a little bit because again, I like coming towards myself. When I get up here to his crest, it's kind of like his tail. I want some darker little feathers underneath just to give it more dimension. And I'm lifting my paintbrush when I come to the edge so that I get that little feathery stroke. You see that? Now, the way our little cardinal is sitting, his left wing is almost this whole egg shape, right? We see only a little bit of his breast here, and then we see his back. And we want the back to be a little bit dark too, because it's like underneath his wing. So I'm gonna come back here on his back. Add these, again, I'm just taking like 1/2 inch little feather strokes coming down his back. I get down here to his tail. And this is something, finishing the bird is something that you can you can work on for a long time. And I guarantee tomorrow morning when you look at it, you'll think, oh, I could put a few more a little feather strokes in there. So we've worked with our dark.
What do we
Now
do
this
on the
is-
side of the bird?
What?
What are we doing on the right side of the bird?
That is his back behind his wing. There's a finished one.
So just tiny little brush
Just
strokes
tiny
to
little,
outline
like
essentially.
1/2 inch brush strokes, just to give a little darkness around his back. Okay, this is going to seem very strange to you, but I guarantee it will work out. Using your medium-sized brush, you are going to mix white and red. So I pull some red out here, pull some white, a little bit more white. And I'm going to come in here on his wing. You're not going to ruin it. I'm going to do little brush strokes. This is going to be the underside. It's actually going to make the red of his wing brighter. So I do this. I do a little bit here in his cheeks. So I've added white and red together. Put a little bit of that on him like that. And then go back to my liner brush, so my small brush. And now I'm going to go to just straight red. I can mix a little bit of orange, make a little bit of orange. Or use red and the orange color. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to be making these with my liner brush. These little feather lines, little detail. Remember, light comes towards you, and I want this part of his wing to look a little lighter than the edge where we've added the brown. And I'm just, my paint is getting too dry, so I'm dabbing my brush in my water just so it flows a little better for me when I put it on. And I'm just going all over his wing with my red. Oh, I wish I could hear you guys. Tell me how you're doing. Because I know when I did this, I was like, oh my gosh, that white is going to ruin his whole wing. But it doesn't, because you come back with your little fine brush and your little feather strokes using your red.
And it really helps give it some deeper dimension and some fluffiness in there.
Yeah. And the white, the underlying white makes the red more vibrant.
Lori, could you review where you did the red that was mixed with white versus where you do just the red?
I'm going right over the top of it.
So the red and the
I got a
white,
little
she
bit
did-
behind, so I forgot where you were doing just the red that was mixed with white.
Just the red and white is that whole
Yes,
area with the ink
kind of.
brush.
Kind of this, watch with my brush here. Just kind of a smaller little egg shape. It's his wing here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy when you get behind to be like, wait, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
Because you miss a whole section if you,
So remember when we
minute or
first
so
drew
time.
it, when we first painted our bird, we just painted it solid and it looked just like a shape, like totally flat. Well, now we're coming back and we've put a highlighted area underneath for a little underpainting. And now I'm coming back with the red, and instead of flat big strokes, I'm making little tiny brush strokes with just the paint on the tip of my brush. And you can vary the colors a little bit by adding in a little yellow just to give it a little bit of the orange color in it. And he's got this great, oh, who asked me about the white? Because we also, where am I at? We also put a little white on his cheek here, right here on his cheek. So I'm going to come back with my red on my paintbrush, just on the tip. How can I get that so you can see it? And I'm adding, and I want my feather strokes to go the direction that his cheek would be. So the feather strokes for his cheek are going to go out to the back of his head. The little feather strokes up here on his crest are going to be going out to where they turn into feathers on the very edge.
One question. So did you mix the red and the white together and then put it on, or was it just white added to the red belly?
No, it was red and white together.
Okay.
So you don't want it to be quite pink because it's a little more red than pink. But you put that on first and then come back. It'll dry right away. And then come back with just straight red on your paintbrush and add your feathers in. And when I squint, I hold it out at an arm's reach from you. Squint your eyes at it. And you can see where you mean, like I'm looking at mine and I need a little more of this shadow to come in here on his neck. So I'm going to go back to that red and brown that I mixed.
Pink. But it looked.
I'm coming back to my red and brown to add a little bit more of this shadow in here. Shading it kind of is. Okay. I'm also I want to mix. Here's my red and brown black that I had mixed. I'm going to mix it with some more red. So I get more red in it. This is going to be my medium. This is going to be my color that's going to join these two pieces together. So it's not as dark brown as what I started with, but it's not as red as what I've just been putting on. So it's a little bit different value. I hope you can see how these values are changing. If you hold it away from you and squint your eyes, wow, it looks amazing.
It really does give it so much dimension. It is looking beautiful, Lori.
And you can, like I say, I know our time, we're getting, especially you guys that are over on the East Coast, we're getting quite late here. But remember, Wendy told you that it was taped. So if you have to leave, we thank you for joining us and putting up with us. And I'm just kind of doing little feather strokes just to blend in so it doesn't look like I have a dark line drawn around my bird, right? I'm just using my little feathers. If I get that up close enough, you can see how that's just mixing.
Yeah, it looks so beautiful.
And then when you hold it away, oh, it looks awesome. So I'm pretty satisfied here with my little My little bird. I love this little cheek, you know. So I lost my mom 7 years ago. And, you know, there's like a myth, I guess you call it, that whenever you see a cardinal, it's a sign from heaven that somebody you love is watching over you. So I just love at Christmas, I always put cardinals out for my mom because I know she's watching me make the peanut brittle and she's watching me go to the bazaars, and it's the kind of thing we always did. So other than being like a winter bird, it kind of has a little comforting spiritual part too to it. So I'm going to say I'm done with my bird for tonight. And you can touch your light. Your light should be, your glow, your illumination here should be dry. This is going to be a funny thing too. You're going to take your large brush. You're going to tap it in your water. We don't want too much water in it though. So it's a big brush. I put it in the water. I tap it on the edge. This time I am going to take it over to my paper towel, and I'm going to let it sit on my paper towel, and you'll see that paper towel will just suck that water out, both sides. And now I'm going to go to my white. Pull it off here on your plate. So I have some water in my brush, but not very much. And I'm going to put it in my white. I probably can't tell that it's on a white plate.
We can see it.
Before I put it on my canvas, I'm going back to my paper towel, and I'm letting the paper towel suck some of that white paint off my brush. Okay. Then I'm going to come in here, and I am going to completely paint over my light. Remember I told you we were going to paint over it to make it look foggy, like the lamp, the glass is foggy. So I'm coming in now with that white that's on my brush, and I'm painting right over my light. You see how I just go right over the top of it? Right over it. The goal with this is to make the glass on the lantern be a little bit lighter than your background.
Just a little frosted.
A little frosted. As long as it's a little lighter than your background, it's going to give the illusion of a frosted glass. So when I came over this, you know, I went right over the black part, the bottom, the base of the lamp, everything that would be behind the glass. So now you can see how this black wrought iron in the front is still very dark black, but everything else is behind a frosted glass.
Lori, I just want to jump in and make a quick comment. There have been a couple of people that I have just let in from the waiting room just recently, and I just wanted to reiterate that if you are just joining us, or if you joined partway through and didn't realize we were Mountain Time and you're Eastern Time, or whatever reason, there might have been people who left and came back, or just dropped it or whatever, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that this is recorded. So if for some reason you missed the class, it will be on the library, American Fork Library YouTube channel. I'm going to try and get it done by tomorrow morning, but for sure by Friday it will be on there. If you missed anything, or you want to go back, or you want to paint it again with your friends or family or whatever, it will be, and I will send a link out to everybody who's registered on the Eventbrite with the link to the YouTube recording of it as soon as it's up. So I just wanted to if some of the people that just joined are like, oh no, I missed it, time zone issues or whatever, just wanted to make sure everybody knows they can get it soon.
So for those of you that have stuck with us all night, and if you have your instructions there, we are on to step 13. We are going to do our snow now. But just like how we got such great form out of our bird, you guys, I'm so excited. This is your aha moment. When you put the snow on, it is so awesome. So just like we did the bird in layers, red, then red and white, then red and brown to give it dimension, we are going to do our snow, but we are going to start our snow with our gray. So go to your palette. I'm sure it's probably dry by now. You're going to, I guess I would use my medium brush. If you have the kit, you have the angled brush to use. I have a red in it, so I got to get it cleaned off. Okay, so first thing you want to do, mix up some gray. So if you need to put some more white out, get some white. The first layer of our snow is going to be a light gray color. So I got some white here, and I do just a tip of black. Gives me this soft gray color. So there's my gray. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to imagine where the snow is. Okay. So I'm going to just say, okay, there's some snow. I'm just blobbing it on here. There's some snow up here. It's down on my side. Don't look so awesome right now because it's gray. I can turn my brush. If you're using one of the round ones, you can do a lot with it too, but I'm just saying, okay, there's going to be some snow here. There's some up here on my, what do you call that? A filigree or something? The little spindle up at the top. Especially when I get down here to my curlicue on my wrought iron. I'm just going to imagine where the snow would pile up, and it's going to be like on the round parts here, right? And then of course there'll be.
Terry says that ball at the top is the finial. I was trying to think of the word too.
I thought it started with some
Finial. Yeah, thank you, Sherry.
finial. So I have a little gray on the finial. Every day thing to do is learn a little something new. And so I have a little of it here on my circle. My little sphere, and of course there'd be snow down piling up here on my kind of randomly here on my
Your little perch.
my little horizontal, yeah, the little perch. And this is where I told you to we weren't too worried about the toes because they're going to kind of get done up with the snow, right? So there I have my first shade of my white on. So now I'm going to wash my brush, wipe it off on your paper towel. That same gray that you did, you're going to add a lot more white to it now. So it might still have a touch of gray to it, but it's much lighter than what you just did. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a little dimension here by putting this lighter gray snow. We're starting up here with my, oh, what was it called? Finial? Finial?
Yeah, finial.
Yeah. I have a little. Little around here. Little at the ball.
We can't see what you're painting.
There you go. You can start to see the aha coming here. And with this very light gray too, I can start, maybe he's been sitting here a long time. He's starting to get a little snow buildup maybe on his back. So this is the light gray I'm putting on here. Maybe a little down here on his tail. A few little bits up here. And now I tell you, this is the great part. This is it. Are you ready for it? Take a deep breath. Wash your brush off, tap it off on your paper towel. Straight white, as bright as it can be, on your brush. Kind of glob it on your brush because the snow kind of globs on. And now I come back and I put the stark white. And you should see it just start to pop on your picture. As we add this, right? Because we're adding dimension. We've now made these little clumps of snow. Doesn't that look amazing? These little clumps of snow here on my little ball. We've now made these little clumps of snow three-dimensional. Look at that little ball. Doesn't that look amazing? And again, I'm just using pure white. If you're using the angled brush, I'm turning it and using it just as a point. You see how that makes that snow just pop off the picture to you? Like you could just reach out there and grab it. And I'm going to come with my tip of my brush and put some little snowflakes building up here on his little beard, coming down his back a little bit. He's been waiting for somebody to come by for a long time. Okay. Again, hold it out at arm's reach. Squint your eyes at it. And you can see where you might need a little of the white. I totally missed this here on these little curves. Okay, last thing before we sign it, take your largest brush you have, and you're going to use straight white.
That makes me nervous.
Huh? And you're going to come in all around the edge. Like, remember you're doing your feather strokes? So I'm just coming in.
Giving it
I'm
a
just
little.
going all the way around the edge. It's okay if you come a little on his tail. And I'm not washing my brush. I'm just using the white that's on my brush. I'm kind of pouncing my brush. If you want to think, remember when we were doing the background, I said not to be so worried about it because we're going to come back with this amazing snow, and I'm just going to come and just keep. I haven't put anything on my brush. I'm just coming in here and blending this white so it comes in. squint your eyes at it. You can tell where you need to go. But I'm just coming in closer and closer. Just bringing that into my background, over my lamppost here at the bottom. Maybe a little more in this corner. Just keep squishing out. You can just squish out the paint that's in your brush by just pushing harder with your brush. Get that to come. Pretty darn good. So it looks kind of like a little frosted window pane. So I do a lot of Zentangle art, which is meditative drawing, black and white pen. We always start with appreciation and end with appreciation and gratitude. So our last thing tonight here is to use your fine brush, tap it off on the water, get a little black wash, a little black on your smallest brush, and somewhere on your painting, own it, put your initials or your name. I like to just do my initials sometimes, but whoops. Put your initials on there. Take a good look at it. And say to yours, take a deep breath. And say, I am so thankful that we were together tonight and that we could paint this amazing cardinal and lamppost to give us some peace and quiet during our busy holiday season. Something that we can enjoy or give away to someone and know that it came from your heart. So this will look even more amazing than it does tonight. It will look more amazing in the morning. So you set it up somewhere in your house so that when you get up in the morning, the first thing you see, it's at least 10 feet away. And you look at it and you think, I can't believe I did that.
It looks amazing, Lori. Lois is asking
Yes.
how you flick paint on it. I think that she's talking about how we've done stars before.
Yes,
Lois,
it's
we've
just
used an old toothbrush
we've
to do that.
gotten so late here tonight. I didn't do that. There are several ways you can do it. I didn't bring my toothbrush up. You can do it with a toothbrush in a box. Don't flick it because I've had to clean my computer, my laptop off afterwards.
Yeah, I had to do my dining room table once too.
But you make a little wash out of the white. So not the straight thick paint, but not too watery, but a little bit. And then, it's like when the kids were at home and they would flick the toothbrush onto the mirror. You can hold your toothbrush down here and you can flick it with your thumb. You can also put it on even like your big brush here that you have. Get mine dry off for a bit. If this had white paint on it that was a little bit watered down, I can take and just hold my brush like this and tap it with my finger and it will flick little snowflakes on there. You can, and once you do that, then you can come back with your liner. And actually, like we put the little dot in there in his eye, you can come back with straight white and add some little purposeful little white snowflakes on it too. So you can do it with a toothbrush, you can do it with a large brush, you can come back with a fine tip. If you want a little bigger circles, you can come back with the tip of your brush, the handle of your brush, opposite the brush. You can come back like this and you can dot little snow on it to make purposeful little, the more you dot it, the smaller, without reloading the paint, the smaller the little snowflake dots will get. The first one will be bigger and then the rest of them will be all a little smaller. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Lori and everyone. This was a great class. I appreciated it.